Hi, good evening. This is the Lord of Michaels coming to you with another video. This video is basically about a life of a gang leader that gave his heart to God. He was my friend. He was someone I knew quite well those many years ago while living in my community. Now, I was given this vision like a black and white silent movie playing. It was a vision I had about this very same gang leader. Before I start the vision, I just like you to know my background. I was born and raised in a gangster and violent community. Gang wars was the order of the day. There was not a weekend when a gang member or a member of his family was not killed, or I can say slaughtered. We as teenagers then were only allowed to walk and play within our communities. That is our immediate communities. We could not venture out into other communities or even go as far as town. We just had to be confined to our community because the gang wars at that time were so intense. I remember I'd always pray to God, asking Him to give me strength to wipe out these gangs and to save the community, because it was so painful having to live through this violence and this type of life as a young boy. So my movie, like Dream, was about this particular gang member. And like I said, he was well known to my family. Although he lived in another area and he was an enemy of the gang in the area where I lived. But we grew up knowing him from a very young age. His name was Daniel. And he was a vicious gang leader, but he would always be kind to my family because, like I said, he knew my family well. He knew all of us, and he'd always send us messages and make sure that we protected. He'd make sure that me and my brother don't form part of the gang or join any gang members or gangs in the area. So he was always there taking care of us. So in my vision, the Lord showed me Daniel and showed me his life as a gangster and how he lived as a gangster. And the Lord showed me this in, like I said, in a movie, like a black and white silent movie. And I saw in this vision-like movie of how he would come into the neighborhoods like a true predator, stalking his enemy, and how he would slay the rival gangs. And he was like a killing machine. He was so good at what he does. And I watched in the movie how over the years how he would come time and time again into the enemy's gang territory, and he would see and watch them what they're doing. They wouldn't even know he's there. And he would call me sometimes and say to me, I've been in your area, I've been right there by your home, I've walked around the community, I know exactly what everyone's doing. And at that time I didn't believe him, because I thought to myself, how can you come into a rival gang's area without them detecting you? But really, when God showed me his life, I realized that this is an assassin-like killer gangster. He was so good at what he does. Anyway, after my school years, I left the community and I went into Johannesburg, where I worked for several years. I lost track with Daniel. I didn't know what happened to him. I lost track with him and we just fell apart. I worked for 10 years, as I said, in Johannesburg. until I was offered a job overseas. And it was one day when I came home from vacation, I decided to go home and visit the family. And when I came home one night, I was sitting outside and my cell phone rings. And when my cell phone rings, I pick it up and I say, hello. And believe me, on the other line was Daniel, the same gang leader. I was so shocked. So I asked him, where did you get my number from? And his response was even more surprising. He said, you called me. I'm just returning your call. So I said to him, I could not have called you because I don't know your number. I haven't been in communication with you for many years. How could I call you? But he was so persistent. He said, you called me. I'm just returning your call. So anyway, we became friends again. I helped him out in life, spiritually and financially. I taught him about God, helped him change his life, until he was offered a position in an oil and gas company in Secunda, Johannesburg. He was offered this position, and he worked and we communicated, and he totally changed his life around. No more Daniel with the big Rambo knife that he used to carry around. He was totally changed. And it was so good to see that we could talk about Jesus, we could talk spiritual things, and the joy in him having found God. After a while, just one day that he called me from hospital, and I was surprised what could be the problem with him, only to find out that there was an accident at work where he was overcome with toxic gases at his work area. Anyway, he was treated and he came out of hospital, but it was not the same. I could hear when he spoke, it was not the same. He kept on complaining that his chest is painful, that he cannot breathe properly, and I knew that this gas had a deadly impact on him, on his health. About 3 months after being overcome by the toxic fumes, he passed on. It was so sad when I heard the news that he's no longer. But I was happy because I knew he found God. And I felt that at least I brought him to the Lord. At least I taught him about God, and that he gave his life over to God. I think of him sometimes still, and I pray to God that we'll meet one day in heaven. So the moral of the story is that you're never too bad to be good. God can use anyone. God uses the worst of us to become someone. And I'm so thankful that I could have played a role in Daniel's life and help him, that he could ask for forgiveness for all the people he killed or he hurt in his life as a gangster. And that's my story for today. Thank you once again for listening, and God bless.